Hello, everybody. Celia Waterhouse here. Thank you so much for joining us at On Point Mentors. Today we have another great On Point mentor to interview, so I'm so excited I get to have a conversation with Deborah. But first of all, if you are someone who is looking for a good mentor, no matter where you are in the world, check out our site, onpointmentors.com, because you'll be able to find someone, whether you're in Hong Kong or Johannesburg or UK, anywhere in the US, Australia, New Zealand, they're all over the place. And we're just getting bigger and bigger. So we're very excited about that. If you are a coach or a facilitator and you're looking to start a business very quickly, get up and running, please check out our site. We are looking for quality mentors at the moment. So check us out. Today we have Deborah Casagrande. Casagrande from Australia. Is that correct? In Gold Coast or?
Yeah, pretty much Gold Coast, yes.
Great. Well, Deborah is a mindset mentor. She's a life coach. She also is a resort managing director. Her expertise is in emotional resilience, transformation, and mindset mastery. So, Deborah, first of all, I love the name Casagrande, big house, right?
Casagrande. The day back, I don't even know how long I've been married, 12 years. And as I walked down the aisle, it was like, I will have the big house one day. And I certainly do now. It took a little while, but I'm here.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm Waterhouse. And, unfortunately, we've had a few leaks in our house. And I'm thinking it's because my name is Waterhouse.
But emotional resilience. Water leaks.
No kidding. So is Casagrande a spa, a resort and spa where you do this mindset mastery coaching, or?
Yes. Well, I did. Well, we do lots of things here. So we pretty much run like a bed and breakfast. However, with the current circumstances, everything changed and stopped completely. Prior to then, we had lots of retreats where a facilitator would come in, hire out the whole space.
Wow.
And it would always be revolved around health and wellness. So prior to this, I owned a medical center for 12 and a half years. Wow. So that was very much, in my mind, the sickness industry. And I saw a lot of people deteriorating as the years went by, whereas I did a lot of mindset work. So I believe in the mind-body connection.
Right.
So here it's all about wellness. So a facilitator may come in and they're doing yoga retreats or a water detox or juice fast. So it's all been fun and amazing and lovely. And it's all been about healing and the mind and really taking control of your life, which is more I believe more important than the medical industry, potentially putting your health and well-being and your own life and wellness in somebody else's hands. So this is all about taking responsibility. So I love that.
Oh, that's fabulous. I went on your site when I saw spa and resort, and I'm like, ooh, I'm going to check it out. Next time I go to Australia, can I have a room, please?
Right. Well, at the moment, we're only, unless it's a retreat and the facilitator will bring in their own guests. But at the moment, if it's accommodation, we're just having one room full. So the guests have pretty much their whole space, which is lovely. They can, sit and look out over the water or hang by the pool, have a sauna, a spa. Really it up, which is what everyone's needing at the moment.
So tell me, so you managed or you owned a medical center and then you got into the coaching space. Why coaching and what really brought you here?
Good question. So I suppose over a lifetime, a number of events happen. And sometimes they're not so pleasant. Mm-hmm. And, everyone's the same. I've spoken to some people that life as a child was amazing, but I've also spoken to a lot of people and a lot of my clients, life hasn't been amazing or childhood wasn't amazing. So for me, things started as I was a child. certain situations put you on a path. There was some maybe uncomfortable situations at home. I remember my cousin I can't remember whether I was 9 or she was 9, but she passed away of a brain tumor, and I saw her in the last stages, and that's quite traumatic. And then, aunties passing from disease, and then the stepfather drowned when I was 18. At the age of 28, I got chronic fatigue, and up till then, I'd never really been to doctors. I don't ever remember Mum taking us to the doctors. I don't even really remember being sick.
Right.
So chronic fatigue was a lot when you're used to being well.
Right.
Now, well as in I got by, but I was never really, in joy. I was never really in gratitude. I was very much surviving. So 28, I think that was the point that, or I know that was the point, that I started on a journey of human behavior, personal development, growth, transformation, all that sort of stuff. I read, a man gave me a book. He was much older than me, and I happened to get the book by Maxwell Maltz, which was Psycho-Cybernetics, and that was very much about the mind. I had no idea what I was reading back at that time because I didn't understand a thing, but I must have got bits and pieces out of it. So I really started to understand that there was more about the mind.
Right.
Because I had chronic fatigue. I'd read Louise Hay's, who hasn't? So that was the mind-body connection. So there was those few things that popped in. I was also quite, for some reason, philosophical. So I wanted to learn about stuff about the universe and the workings of the mind, but it was always very basic. So it wasn't until I was 40, and I suppose this is where my story really started, and life really hit home for me. I was 40. It was September of 2007. And I sort of get a little bit teary about it because it was my reality and it was my pivotal moment to need to make changes. So I packed up my car. A friend had helped me. I'd moved house and I was leaving home. So I was actually separating from my husband. We'd been together for 22 years. I had a 17-year-old and I had a 17-year-old daughter. She was the life of the party, the happy, go out and socialise one. And then there was my son, who was 15 and a half, he was a homebody like me. So my kids were my world. And I was leaving home, but essentially I was leaving my kids as well because my kids chose to stay with their dad. So that was hard.
Yeah.
Friggin' awful. Like, it was like, it was my choice to be there. It was my choice to do it. But, that night reality hit and I cried myself to sleep and I was stressed and I felt abandoned. I felt alone. I felt awful. I felt like I was, at the start of this deep, dark hole, and it wasn't pleasant. But I knew I wanted to, but also I needed to change my whole life, to change everything about it. It was on my own. It was the first time I'd lived alone in 40 years. I'd never lived by myself. So it was like, what to do? And I needed to get out of this awful, stressful, overwhelmed mindset that was not serving me. I just opened a medical centre 2 years prior. So in 2005, I founded the medical centre, started it from scratch, had no idea about business. I'd worked in retail up till the 1 year prior for 13 years, and then I'd taken a year off to build a house. So it was like, I need to get back into the workforce, so I'll open a medical centre. So I was in debt. I was in debt $250,000.
Wow.
I was paying my bills. I had staff. I had a business I was newish, because I didn't know everything about the medical centre. Remember, I didn't go to doctors. So there was so much to learn, but I had to keep my head above water.
Right.
I had to stay focused. I had to find ways to get me by. I had to continue to survive, because that's what I was in. I was in survival mode. So 6 months after that, I did my first long or intensive stint of personal development. So I booked myself into a 7-day Christopher Howard billionaire boot camp. So I threw myself in the deep end. I'd never done anything before. It was like, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm going to meet new people. I'm playing full out. So the most important thing back at that moment, it was March of 2008. I needed to play full out. I paid money. I never had paid money for something like that ever in my life. So it was a massive amount of money. After I'd paid off all my bills, I was living off $30 a week. So for food, I had $30 for food. So I was quite wise with my food spending money. And most of that was spent on the one night where my kids came to visit, and they would spend one night a week with me. Now, this is going from my life, my kids were my world. That family unit was my world. So It's completely different now. So I had to make the most of that one night a week. Right. No, there's no blame, or like, I'm grateful for I'm grateful for everything in my life. I'm grateful for the way it turned out. But in Hawaii, I needed to play full out so I could make things different. And at the beginning of that course or training, we had to set an intention. You know, you go to these places, set your intention. What do you want to get out of your 7 days? Right. So me playing full out, I set my intention. I asked some questions. I wanted to get some learnings. And I was committed. So I decided I was going to be there. I was committing to doing whatever I needed to do. So then the action was to play full out. So the course started about 9 a.m. 10 a.m. in the morning, and it went till 9 at night. That would suit you. Doesn't suit me because I'm not a night person. I'm so not a night person. I turn into a pumpkin as soon as the sun goes down. But I was there to get whatever learning I needed to get, to connect with the right people, and to change whatever I needed to change in my life. And I knew, well, I sort of thought that started with the mindset, but I really didn't know to what degree. Right. So the intention was, after that period of, workshop activity day, then you had to write for 4 hours every single night.
4 hours? What do you write in 4 hours?
Correct. Like, someone who hasn't done that before, well, actually, most people hadn't done that. But we had a series of questions. First question, maybe the first day, was what's wrong? So you're writing 4 hours of what's wrong. Then the next night you would highlight what stuck out at you. And then the next night you would work through that. The next night you would dig deeper. Where's it come from? What was the origin of you thinking you're a complete failure? What was the origin of you, that moment someone told you you're useless and you will never succeed? What was the moment that you thought you were not good enough? And that could have gone back to going shopping and somebody got everything they wanted and you couldn't have that one packet of biscuits that you wanted. Because as a child, we set up these massive beliefs which then turned into programs, which then run our life. So, there was a lot of working through all your mindset, your emotional baggage, your triggers, your beliefs, your programs, working through all that. So I did that 4 hours every night. I may have got like the maximum of 4 hours sleep every night.
Wow.
And it wasn't till the very last day that it was 3 a.m. I was sitting in the resort in the foyer, because of course you wouldn't potentially be sitting in your room if your roommate was sleeping. So, and I, remember I was playing full out. I decided, I'd committed, I was doing the action, doing whatever I needed to do. A lot of focus there. 3 a.m. in the morning, I got my big aha. Now, through the week, people would come in and like day 2, oh my God, I got my aha, I got my big learning. Well, I didn't. The next day, I got my aha. People are standing up all over. I'm like, again, I'm useless. I'm not worthy. I'm a failure, because I wasn't getting my aha when everybody else was getting their aha.
Right.
At 3 a.m. the last morning, I got exactly what I needed to get. And one of my biggest learnings in that moment was that I intended to find whatever tool or technique I needed to get me through any challenge, no matter what. Because life throws its stuff, but it's how we deal with it, how we view it, how we have the ability to get over it, sort of in a sense, to the best of our ability in the quickest way possible, so we can get on and do what we want to do. So that was a pretty life-changing moment. And that was the reason why I started on a deeper mindset journey. And then, as the student is ready, the teacher will show up, sort of thing. Saying. So the second half of that week, I set some goals, some pretty big goals, considering I'd never set goals before. I remember I was just surviving. I was just getting by. I was just living life. I didn't think I was capable of achieving goals. I didn't know how to set goals. They say realistic. Well, what's realistic? What's realistic in one person's mind is not necessarily realistic in another person's mind. How big is too big? What if I fail? What about all these fears that come up? What about all my limiting beliefs? All these things. But it was like, I'm decided, I'm setting some goals. So I wanted to be debt-free by the time I was 50. At this stage, I was 41. I wanted, at the time, I owned a medical center. I wanted to triple my business income by the end of that year. Wow. And how that came about was, a lady rang me and she's like, can I take you to lunch? I'm like, yeah, okay. Who are you? What do you do? What's going on? What do you want to talk about? Where did you come from? And she said, I know you own a medical center. I want to start a similar business, but it was more in physiotherapy, osteopathy, that sort of thing. And I want to pick your brains. And I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty, that's pretty nice. Yeah, we can do that. So I go to lunch and she's like, what's your business plan? And I'm like, I don't have a business plan. She said, what's your goals for the medical center? I said, I don't have any goals for the medical center. I'm like, I'm just getting in and working every day. Isn't that what you do? Get up, I go to work, I come home, I work my butt off. I'm thinking about work 7 days a week. That's business, isn't it? Like, I hadn't been in business before. I hadn't been to business school. I hadn't, like, you just work. So going away from that meeting, that's when I decided, well, I need to set some business goals as well. Yeah. I need to plan towards something. So that's when I wanted to triple the business by the end of that year. So there was to be debt-free by the time I was 50, to triple my business by the end of that year. I wanted everything I did to be a tax write-off. So I wanted to work towards that. I wanted to have a career around everything I do, I can write off. So if I wanted to have a massage, I could write that off. If I wanted to do healing, I could write that off. If I wanted a business coach, I could write that off. Because all these things are my highest values. So I wanted to work out how to incorporate all those things in my life and then be a tax write-off. I used to say I wanted my whole life to be a write-off, but that's probably not the thing. But I mean, technically, it's all a tax write-off, but I, used to miss out that we're probably not a good thing to put out to the universe. I wanted to travel, so I as a child I wanted to be an air hostess, but I never thought I would be good enough to do that, so I didn't do that. But being an air hostess was really about traveling and seeing the world. So that never happened. So at this point, that was another goal, to travel. My first overseas travel when I was 40, which is when my ex and I and the kids, just before we split up, went to Fiji. So my second travel was to Hawaii. So there was travel. I wanted to see the sunrise every day. I love seeing the sunrise. Not like you, I'm a morning person. I love that part of the day when the energy, the universal energy is clear and, it's just beautiful. So I love seeing the sunrise, and I set this airy fairy, I want to be a millionaire. So every day, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire. I just wrote it. Did I believe it? No, but I still wrote it. I didn't know how it would ever happen, if it was possible to happen. I didn't know, could I be capable of making that happen, But I was like, I'm setting goals. I'm just writing it down. Then I set a goal to, we talk about where do you want to live? What sort of house do you want? All that sort of stuff. So mine was to live in a place where I'd love to holiday, so that I got to wake up every single day in a place that I felt like I was on a holiday. So how to get them? So why coaching? How to get them? Mm-hmm. Then I needed to find tools and techniques to get through every block, fear, limiting belief that stood in my way from getting and achieving those goals.
Right. So
along came a friend who asked me to attend a Dr. John Demartini event. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you know him. So I went to his one-night free workshop. From there, I booked straight, because I'm on my personal development journey. I'm doing what I needed to do to get to those things that I wanted to achieve, and to have a complete deep shift in mindset.
Right.
But also to learn tools and techniques to have that deep shift in mindset to get me to wherever I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So from that one night, I booked a breakthrough experience, which is 2 intensive days. They are intensive. They are full on. They're crazy. They're mind-blowing. And for some, absolutely ridiculous. But again, I was there to play full out. I was taking different actions in this new part of my life, and this new part of my journey. So I was playing full out. This particular night, I think we were up until at least 1:40 Saturday morning, then back at like 8 a.m. So they're long days. You start at 8 in the morning, went till 1:40, back at 8, and I think the next night went till at least 9 o'clock. So again, I was there to play full out. I was there to learn whatever tools and techniques I needed to get through whatever challenge came my way. Essentially, that was about being able to snap out of those challenging, traumatic, stressful, overwhelming situations. So I played full out. I got what I needed to get. But from there, I booked into his master planning,
Oh, geez.
which followed straight on. I don't know whether Prophecy 1 was first and then master planning, or master planning and prophecy 1, but they joined this particular time. So there was master planning was 2 days of planning, intensive planning of 7 areas of your life. Perfect timing for me because I'm planning a new life. Played full out there. Prophecy 1 was about intensive studies of, the 7 areas of your life. So I did a breakthrough, I did the free event, a breakthrough, master planning, Prophecy 1. From there, I booked a trainers. So the next year, in about June, I did his trainers, which is training to learn the DiMartini method so that I could even learn it myself, get through whatever I needed to get through, and then in turn help others. So in total, as far as the DiMartini programs, I intensified, I think, a year and a half, 4 breakthroughs. I facilitated 4 breakthroughs. So I sat 4 breakthroughs. I facilitated 4 breakthroughs. His Prophecy 1, his Prophecy 2, which is absolutely incredible, going back to when I was 28 and I had chronic fatigue, and that's when I started to learn about the mind-body connection and how powerful the mind is, that when it has the ability to set off chemical reactions and create either pain or discomfort or disease or illness within the body. If so many people learnt that, even if they scratched the surface of that, that would be just mind-blowing for some people. So there was 4 breakthroughs, working at 4 breakthroughs in Australia. I facilitated 1 in New Zealand. I went to Santa Monica to attend his first ever values training. Prophecy 1, Prophecy 2, master plan. So intensified, lots of training. And that's when I really knew that I could create that deep shift within consciousness for myself and then in turn help others. So within the medical centre, there were lots of people that had followed me came to the medical centre. They were patients from 2005. And, their health was deteriorating either physically or mentally. So I had lots of coaching clients. I just happened to talk to them and then they'd want some coaching. And so I would incorporate that, as well as some energetic healing, because I believe we are all energy as well. So bringing in lots of tools that would help people that are ready.
Right.
Not everybody's ready for that deep shift on whatever, wherever they're at and whatever they're ready, to have, because not everybody's ready.
Now, you do theta counseling as well. I had to look that up. Can you explain that?
Oh, I love. So theta healing came about, I think it was the year before last. Now, what I realized with the DiMartini method, or the mindset, it's very much about the mind and the brain. I know we have the ability, when we're working just on the mind, to really push aside the emotional side of things, to forget that they are real and as important as our beliefs and our perceptions. So I'm a holistic person, so mind, body, and soul. I knew about the mind, body. I know about the mind. Energetically, I've trained in 3 different energy healing modalities. So that was Reiki first, DLF therapy, which is a direct life force therapy, and Rahani. So they're all a form of energy healing. So I understood about energy as well, and how the ability to heal the body with energy is completely possible. With energy healing, before we get on to theta healing, my son at the age of 14, he'd broken his leg. That healed. Then in the same year, he went from a motorbike, thinking, well, motorbike, brakes, easier for an accident. He went to a push bike, but he'd gone up a ramp, a ramp with my ex, we were on 16 acres. So he'd gone up a ramp and come down, and the handlebars went up under his ribs. So he perforated his liver. We thought it was his ribs. So we go to one hospital. It was the day of my sister's wedding. I was a bridesmaid. Massive day. My son ended up at one hospital. They took him straight to the next hospital. Then they flew him straight to, actually, I don't even know whether they flew him or ambulanced him, because it's a whirlwind, it's a nightmare. From one hospital's bad enough to the next, to then, I need to get him to Brisbane, which was one of the main hospitals. He perforated his liver. They said, you have to lay it flat on your back. You cannot move. You cannot go to the toilet. If you do, you will bleed to death. So it was perforated that bad that it was like not nice. So after the wedding, I went to my sister's wedding. I was quite distraught. My husband had gone with my son. I left. I went straight to Brisbane the next day. And I sat with my hands on him, channeling an energy. I mean, for some people, this is a bit airy-fairy, but it doesn't matter. It worked. And what works for one doesn't work for another. And what one believes is fine and what other people believe is completely different. That's all good. But I sat with my hands on him for a full week. Every hour, a couple of hours, the nurses would come around and say to him, do you need painkillers? You must be in pain. For the severity of the injury, you must be in pain. He's like, no. So he had not one painkiller. The naughty person, the problem with energy healing, he had no pain, so therefore he thought, I'm going to the toilet. There's no way I'm peeing in a bottle. But anyway, he was out of hospital within a week and back at school within 2 weeks. So did I do that? Oh, no, not really. I just facilitated. He was obviously open for it at the time. So I knew about energy. I knew the power of it. But theta healing came about when I wanted to really, in my consults, incorporate an energy component, because we know I knew it worked. I know about the mind, but I wanted to holistically package it all. So a lady rang me one day and she's like, she lives not far from me. And she's like, can I introduce you to theta healing? Can I give you a session so that you can see what it's all about? I'm like, yep, okay, I'm up for a free session. I'm up to learning something new. I'm up to learning something that's going to help me help my clients have the best package deal outcome possible to create as much shift as they choose. And so I'm up there. And I was quite blown away. And not long after that, she was teaching theta healing. So theta healing is really about tapping into the subconscious mind. So how do we do that? We do that with, I don't know if you know about kinesiology. They use muscle testing. There's a couple of forms of muscle testing. So there's this one. There's, opening the fingers. Right. Fingers will lock. Now, I could do that with you now because the whole universe is energy, and I could ask you a question and muscle test and get the answer. I'm tapping into your subconscious. If I've got a client sitting in front of me, things have changed at the moment. So if they're sitting in front of me, I still might do it depending on them, whether they want to touch or not. But essentially, I'm asking a question. It might be, I'm a failure. So consciously, you may think, I'm not a failure. I've got this big, beautiful house. For me, I'm sitting on 2.8 acres. I've got that house that I wanted, I said I want to live in a place that I would love to holiday in. Well, I'm living in a resort. So, but deep down, what's the subconscious thinking? The subconscious, the superconscious, whatever you want to call it. So I might say to you, I'm a failure. Now, if it stays closed, that's a yes answer. If it opens, that's a no. So when we're doing some muscle testing, we're actually effectively tapping into the subconscious. So when I'm sitting with a client, you know, and they're fidgeting about and they're going, yeah, like I'm cool, I'm successful, but I can see something's not quite right. So we'll muscle test and go, I'm a failure, and we'll go, and it's like lock tight, or I'm a success. That would be a no, because we want to ask it in the positive. So then we would need to dig to see where it's come from. Now, when I'm working with theta healing, and the reason I really like it and the reason why I love incorporating this technique with the mindset and the energy is because, yes, we're tapping into the subconscious mind, but what I also learned is, say I say to you, did you have a traumatic childhood? And you go, no, everything was great. But we still have some blocks and we can't work out what they are or where they come from. Because generally our challenges, you know, it's always been said that our challenges are starting or have set up as a childhood.
Right.
You know, something happened, we created a belief, which creates a program, which creates our actions going forward, consciously or unconsciously or subconsciously. So what I realized was that, and this gave me a deeper understanding of, you know, passing on through things genetically. Sort of going, yeah, you know, it's always been talked about, oh, it's just genetics. I go, no, what? I don't know. We have the ability to create whatever we want in this lifetime. So how can that be right? But now I have another understanding. So I might ask a question, and it's actually come genetically through the parents, because it's all energy. So whatever the parents believe, whatever their program was, and whatever's held within their energy field does have the ability to come through to us. So the theta healing is working on this lifetime, which is the core level, you know, this genetically, which can be passed down through generations from our parents, etc. History, which is past life stuff. So I'm sitting with a client, and he had an absolute fear, like this phobia of dying.
Wow.
Like it was so strong. And I didn't know what it was, but he had this thing, and I'm like, come and see me. You know, guys don't necessarily believe in energy stuff, energy healing, all that sort of stuff. You're lucky to get them into some mindset stuff. So I'm like, well, where's it come from? And he's like, I said, what happened in this lifetime? Did you nearly drown? And sometimes I'll check in with them intuitively, but essentially I want my client to get all their own answers, because I may say something which is from my experience, it's not necessarily from their experience. So I always want the client to have their own answers. Like, where'd it come from? No. Anyway, so I went, okay, well, we'll do a little process. So we helped him connect to his subconscious mind. Now, keeping in mind, this is a man that doesn't meditate, that doesn't believe in energy stuff. And I'm like, go to a time where there was fear, where you felt like because he'd already said, I felt worthless, I'm going to die, I'm going to leave people behind, I'm a failure sort of thing. So we said, oh, let's tap into all those things that we'd already written down. We'll go back, you know, he's in a little bit of a meditative state that I helped him, I just guide him through. And he's like, next minute, I can feel it now. Next minute, he's like, I'm at the front line. And like, he was explaining all this stuff. So all these things were popping into his mind. I'm at the front line. I've got so much responsibility. You know, I can feel this overwhelming feeling. Essentially, he was killed at the front line. But that all came from him. I didn't make, like, where do you pop these little ideas out of? Right. You know, he was feeling it. So anyway, I do a bit of a process where we get the lessons, why are we there? What, how did that lifetime serve you? And keeping in mind, this is not for everyone. I can only take these people through these processes if it's right for them. Not everything is right for everybody. And also keeping in mind, this wasn't his thing.
Right.
But he was there living it. He felt it. He experienced it. He was embodying it in that moment. But we can't leave people there.
Yeah.
So we need to get the lessons. Like everything has the ability to have a lesson. I listened to a thing yesterday, and it was memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. Which I found quite profound, because then we wanted to get him to get the wisdom out of that situation or out of that lifetime. So then we do some energetic healing around it, which is the theta healing. So we want to relieve the feelings of the trauma, the feelings of that stressful situation, that burden of being so responsible for so many people. But essentially, when we let go of something, we then want to bring in the opposite. So it's another form of an energetic process, but in this instance, we're doing it with intent. We're letting go of what's not serving us, and we're bringing in the opposite. So we wanted him to feel safe in this world, that he has the ability to live life in the moment without fear, because he was living with fear. So that's what the theta healing is all about.
So he was able to let go of his phobia of dying. What did he bring in to replace that? Just curious.
Feeling safe, feeling that he's safe and supported in this world, that he feels at peace within himself, that he doesn't live with fear.
Nice.
That life is okay, and the feeling of how to be present within every moment without that attachment of fear of something going to happen.
How long did this take for him to get to this point?
We spent an hour with him, because there may be some digging. Like if I'm talking to someone that's quite intuitive and in touch with their subconscious mind, that's obviously going to be a lot quicker.
Right.
But essentially, I could say, okay, well, we need to go here or we need to go there, but I want to guide them, because essentially my clients aren't with me 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Right.
So they need to take some control. So I'm guiding them. I'm asking a billion questions, so that then when they're out in their own world with whatever challenges coming up, they then get trained to ask themselves those. They just know essentially, okay, what's going on?
Right.
What's my fear here? What's my limiting belief? Like, they may not get it, but at least they're asking themselves the question. So it was essentially those answers will eventually pop in.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I'm saying this started, I can ask, because I can muscle test. This is a core program or belief, which is this lifetime. So that's a yes or a no. This is genetic. So we know then to go genetically. Or history, this is a past life. So a past life event process, I'm getting them to sit in a certain way. I'm asking them to call on their higher self and take them through a little bit of a meditation to get you see a timeline in front of them, and ask your subconscious to take you back to that moment in that timeline, which is their timeline. I'm reiterating, if it's history, that it's your timeline. You're going back on your timeline. A time where you felt stressed, where you felt compromised, where you felt like where you had intense fear of death. And your subconscious has the ability to take us back to wherever we need to go. We just don't know how. Most of us are not trained to go to that place. They don't know how to. They don't have that tool or technique to get there.
Well, so you talk about an intuition a bit. Is it possible to train someone to tap into their intuition? And how do you do that?
Well, essentially, the reason why, the number one reason I ask the questions and I'm asking them to find their own answers is generally because they're tapping into their own intuition. That's one way to start. I'm sitting here asking you the questions. I'm getting you to breathe. I'm getting you to be centered. I'm getting you to, let go of all those other thoughts, the millions of thoughts. And then just ask yourself. So that's one way. Another way where I started tapping into my intuition was I have a book. I always have a book. I usually have 50 on the go. 100 packed up there in the cupboard somewhere. But, I do a brain dump.
Okay.
So when I'm doing a brain dump, it's generally about what I'm not liking at the moment. So I do my own work every day or every other day. Sometimes I get a bit sick of it and it's like, no, just let me not think anymore. Just let me get on.
But you don't do the 4 hours.
No. But I'll do a brain dump. And what I've found, and with my clients, is doing a brain dump, you're getting all the rubbish out. Like all that stuff, which is just mind chatter. It's the conscious, it's the junk. Like just get it all out. And then essentially, when you've done that enough, it will switch to an intuitive conversation. So mine always it'll start with, oh my God, I'm freaking hating not having money coming in. I'm just like, this is doing my head in. All my clients, every single accommodation booking has just pulled out. Everyone wants their money back. This is just like stressing me to the max. So whatever it might be. That was my reality because I had full month of bookings and then all of a sudden everyone's gone. And everyone, because we would always get everyone to pay first, which holds their booking. So then I had to pay everything back. And it's still happening because there's so much uncertainty with the border. Right. So I'm brain dumping. Then it will switch to, for me and for my clients, well, this is serving you because you're now getting time to work on yourself. This is your time out. Now you really need to work on your self-care. So when I'm writing, it switches from I to you. This is what you need. And that's an intuitive message coming through. It's not because I don't know what I'm going to. In the first instance, I know what I'm writing. It's all brain dump stuff that's sitting in my conscious mind. But then the subconscious or the intuitive will kick in, and all that will come out and give me guidance. Another way is the muscle testing is really good because you're tapping straight into the subconscious mind. So I might ask myself, is it a benefit for me to get onto this phone call with Celia?
Yes.
Yes. No. So it might be a yes. It's like, is the timing right? Yes. Am I prepared? No. And then I need to get myself a bit more prepared. So muscle testing is.
So you could do it yourself. I always thought someone else had to, hold the muscle and then see your strength.
No, practice it yourself.
So, okay, so very quickly, how do you?
Yeah. Okay, so taking a deep breath. So you're getting yourself centered. You want to be in your own little space in the beginning, because essentially later on you can, you'll be able to walk into the supermarket. Is this bag of chips right for me? No.
Yes.
Should I have this chocolate? Yes. Or no. So it might be yes. Just one, yes. Two, no. So for the first one, you've got your thumb and your forefinger or your middle finger, whichever's most comfortable for you. Now, essentially, you're holding firm, but not locked tight. So if you got your that finger in like that sort of man Loctite, you don't want that. So you're just firm. So to start by sort of like calibrating, my name's Debbie. For me, that would be a no, because I was actually born with the name Deborah. So my name's Deborah. That locks tight for me. My name's Celia. that will open, because that's a no.
Oh, that's a no. Okay, open's a no. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So if you do yours, were you born with the name Celia?
Yep.
Okay, so my name's Celia. For me, it's a no. Does that lock tight? Yeah.
Yeah.
And say my name's Debbie.
My name's Debbie.
Okay.
Ah, yeah.
So it works. So then you would practice that. So show me a yes, that's a lock tight. Show me a no, that will open.
No is open. Yes is locked. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one form of tapping into your intuition. That's easy. You also may have a pendulum. I have this crystal pendulum, and again, you ask yourself a yes or a no. So for me, it spins in a circle when it's a yes, and it goes back and forth when it's a no.
So does it have to be like clockwise or anti-clockwise, or does it matter?
Essentially, it's whatever's right for you. Because remember, we're all our own energy.
Right.
So whatever's right for you, it's right for you. Whatever's right for me, it's right for me. So a little story about the pendulum. I have a massive place here. It is big. We have 4 accommodation rooms. We have 3 treatment massage rooms. We have a common room. We have a pool, a spa, a sauna,
Wow.
a steam room. We have our big area. So a retreat had booked out. So that means cleaning the whole place from top to bottom to top, washing, cleaning, all the whole kit and caboodle. And I put my phone down somewhere. I can't ring my phone to find my phone. So I'm like, holy dooly, what am I going to do? I went, okay, I'm finding my pendulum. So I went and got my pendulum, and I went through every single room. Is it in this room? Is it in this room? Is it in this room? Till eventually I found my phone. So that worked for me. I've been using a pendulum for years, so it worked and I got my answer. So essentially we're tapping into a universal energy which has and holds all the answers.
Right.
And
so is that essentially the energy that, subconsciously you remembered leaving the phone in that or putting it down in a certain spot in that room? So you just couldn't bring it up to your conscious or your memory, that's active. And so the pendulum served as you recall putting it down. Is that how it works?
Yeah, definitely. Because I would have unconsciously known where I put it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you lose something like a phone or keys, it's hard to, if you're not accessing your intuition all the time, like there's some psychics and stuff who are accessing their intuition day in, day out. That's what they do. I'm not quite there yet, but I know how to use it. I know how to access. I know when to access it. But when I'm in a state of, oh my God, where's my phone? My intuition's not allowing me. So the pendulum worked better for me because I was walking around going, in my mind going, is it in this room? Is it in this room? Is it in this room? It's like, oh, okay, that's not working because the mind was in the way. So I needed to use something else, which then helped me to then go, well, here it is. Here.
It would be great if it would just say, go that way. It's right there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so tell me about resilience. Listening to your story, I'm like, wow, you have gone through a lot to really work on your mind and getting it strong and finding all the tools to give you resilience. So obviously it can be learned because you learned it very well. Some tips about resilience and what you can teach people out there.
Well, resilience at the moment is really about breaking down what's going on. Every single person at this moment has a different perception according to their experience, according to what's held in their energetic field from, this lifetime or past. But I might come to someone might come to me and they'll go, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed or whatever. So they're not being resilient in the change that needs to happen for them in that moment. So what is resilience, for them? Okay, what is not allowing you to get by? So my belief, the most important thing is to break it down. What's the problem? I generally start with, we'll have like a couple of, I really want to get the most out of my sessions when I'm with a client. So it's like, I don't do too much chit chat. I don't want them getting off the phone going, I spent 15 minutes just talking about nothing. So I'm just generally in there. What's your problem? What's going on? What are you feeling? What's in your way? So it might be, okay, so let's talk about me, for example, resilience around finances. So I have massive expenses here. This is not a little house block. It's like massive expenses. So then you need massive income. And and my income came from accommodation guests, retreat guests, and then I would do coaching either in that retreat or with clients.
Right.
All my money's gone. So I had to adapt and be resilient in that moment. So I went, okay, well, what's coming up for me? What is my problem? What is my challenge? What is my fear? What is my stress? So I worked it out, and it took me back to when I was 40 and I left home and I was living off $30 a week. Back then, at least my bills were paid, but it's like we can have completely different events,
right,
but still the same feelings and emotions will come up. So it's really important to identify what those feelings, emotions are, because you can go, well, I had never owned a resort before, so I've never had all these, like, all my income stopped. So what's going on?
right.
The feelings and emotions that I help my clients to tap into, to then go, what does that remind you of? So for me, it reminded me of when I left home. Yes, I did have my bills paid, but I was in $250,000 debt and I was living off $30 a week. So the feelings were the same. So I went, okay, how did that serve me? Because you can look at, I can go, that was a friggin' traumatic time and I never want to relive that again. Or I can go, that was a traumatic time. What did it teach me? What was my wisdom in it? Then I started a new life. At the age of 50, I had almost $1 million in my bank. The year that I'd set the goal to triple my business income, I actually was asked to move premises, which was 3 times the size. I now wake up and see the sunrise every day. I live in a place where I would love to holiday. I was debt-free for a couple of months, but then I bought the resort.
Right.
And also now my everything I do is, essentially a tax write-off.
Right.
Being resilient is about looking at what's coming up for you. Break it down, chunk it down. What, people that come and, this times change for them, and they're overwhelmed. Overwhelmed about what? You can't, that's just like up here. Above that might be angry, then it's overwhelmed.
Right.
And then what's going on underneath?
Yeah, what specifically, right?
What specifically? It's always a specifically. And your specific is completely different to my specific.
Right.
Your resilience in this time may be completely different to my needs.
Right.
And resilience in this time.
Right.
But we all have the ability to be resilient. It's just learning those tools and techniques to break through that, to identify and then break through that resilience. And that's all about equilibrating the mind. I believe our conscious mind knows everything. Then we've got all these emotions and these stirrings. Well, what are they? My belief is, and I don't know how to explain it technically, and I don't know the real chemical reactions that are going on, but my belief is conscious mind knows everything, subconscious holds everything else. In between's all these emotions and stirrings. The minute we access the subconscious mind or superconscious mind, we bring it to the conscious, we equilibrate it all, we minimize all these emotional outbursts.
Right.
And we apply until we have the next one.
Right. Oh my gosh. Now, promise me you will create a course, 2 courses, one on how to tap into your intuition.
Yes.
And another one on resilience, which would probably be multiple modules of that, for both courses. But I mean, that's just a start, because I can see already there is a wealth of information in there that you need to share. Share it with us, please.
Absolutely.
Wow, that is an amazing story. I think we're reaching up to our time limit, but I could go on and on. Oh my gosh. There's other topics I want to talk to you about, so we're going to have to just have another session. I would love to see you in action. Maybe we should put together, and I know we've been talking about it with some of the other mentors, of doing some panel discussions and getting some live questions, and having an interaction where we're all just kind of, saying, what we can do to help others out there. And I mean, it's fascinating just listening to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been so fun. I've loved every minute of it.
Oh, geez. All right. Well, I will have you back sooner than later, I think. And I want to talk about those courses, because I'm the first one that's going to take them.
We're all more, we are all so much more capable than we can ever imagine.
Yeah.
And I say that from experience.
Yeah.
Hand on heart, I totally believe that now.
Well, that's why we wanted you on our On Point Mentors team. We need good mentors, and you, man, I found a good one here. All right.
So honored and blessed to be here. So thank you.
Oh, you too. So, are you using Debbie or Deborah? Because do you prefer Debbie or Deborah?
Well, I've always been Debbie.
Okay.
Because I didn't like Deborah, but standing or stepping more into my true self. I was born Deborah, so I'm figuring to be stepping into a Deborah. So it will happen organically as it's meant to.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And definitely we will have you back, whether it's in a panel thing or whether it's individual. But there's lots of good things coming up for On Point Mentors. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
And bye.